We hate to break it to you, but Elon Musk isn't the wealthiest person alive. Have you actually stopped and thought about who actually runs this world? Who is the puppet master pulling all those strings? It's called the world stage for a reason. The Rockefellers are one of the most famous families in the world. With over 6 generations, they are still one of the wealthiest families that have ever existed. Their household holds more than 250 family members, and they are estimated to be worth more than $11 billion. In 1861, John Davidson Rockefeller created a new company named Standard Oil, and that was the beginning of his massive empire. He was the richest man in the United States of America, period. He passed his scammy knowledge to his children, and together they raised the prices of black oil until they had the monopoly over the entire oil industry. They held over 90% of oil in the USA. The Ludlow Massacre was a massive incident organized by the Rockefellers. The miners who worked for them started protesting. The mines were dangerous, their salary was practically useless, and they were paid in special currency that could only be used in stores owned by the Rockefellers, leaving them with nothing to eat or drink. The protest got more attention, so Rockefeller Jr. sent armed men, mercenaries, to break the protest. They ferociously murdered 11 children, 2 women, and several men, and then they burned them inside their tents, claiming it was an accident. This famous family built its wealth by leaving many ordinary families in poverty and agony, feeding on their misery. In 1911, the railroad was about to be finished. The Rockefellers wanted to build terminals, but they were lacking money. That is where Gates stepped in, the man who was managing Rockefeller's donation fund. He gave over $400,000 to the Rockefeller, and railroad was finished. After that, they gave the money back to Gates, claiming that it was an accident. Gates and Rockefeller funded human experimentation in Africa, injecting people with poison and with the flu, killing hundreds of people. They were lab rats in an inescapable prison. This Gates is supposedly Bill Gates' grandfather, but Bill claims that he had nothing to do with that man, which prevents him from looking like they were a mere pawn in the hands of a puppet master. This unproven statement makes him look legit. Nelson Rockefeller is Bill Gates' cousin, which further proves that Bill's statement is a complete and utter lie. Rockefellers bought stocks from Microsoft while it was still in its initial phase. Why would they do something in a completely different industry that had no ties with them? After all the incidents, they opened up their magazine, which published only good things about them, even lies that would increase their credibility while bashing their non-existent rivals. They transferred all their wealth into today's world without a need to care about laws, authority, morality, or the government. He who controls the money controls the world. Rothschild are an international banking dynasty that controls all the central banks in the world. Some say they can even control the weather using the infamous HARP technology. Their power is practically limitless, since they don't just control all the money, they are also the only ones who are allowed to print them. Rothschild rose to power in the 18th century, and it all started with Mayer Rothschild. He was deep into banking, and he installed his 5 sons into Europe's 5 capitals, taking the banking monopoly, similarly to the Rockefellers. They were the first ones to introduce media and news programs which they used to scam people into paying them, creating fake crisis news and scaling their business in no time. His sons initially opened up banks in Germany, Austria, Italy, Britain, and France. But today, they own almost all central banks, and they work hand in hand with the Rockefellers, trying to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Rothschilds don't even do business with your everyday blokes. Their clients were governments themselves. In the 18th century, there was an enormous turning point in England, and the Rothschilds supplied so many coins that they fully averted a market liquidity crisis. They single-handedly prevented England from a catastrophe so that they could keep their wealth from receding. Rothschilds have also countless multi-million-dollar mansions all over the world, and people suspect that they are secretly controlling the World Bank. which isn't a far-fetched idea considering their enormous influence. They granted a £400 million loan to the British government after being asked just a few hours prior that they gave a loan to France after a defeat they suffered from Prussia. After their 6 initial banks, they spread across the whole world like a disease, corrupting and infecting every possible country with their enormous power. They opened up the Federal Reserves, a central bank in USA and even funded by Mao Zedong to start the Communism Party in China. Rothschild and Rockefeller also have influence over the world's politicians since the governments own them billions of dollars and the price just keeps getting higher. They funded the women's rights movement, so women had to work. Suddenly, women looked for a job and the market became oversaturated, halving the income that men generated. This made everything the same, but only one huge difference. Now everyone depended on them. It was full circle finances, but now they also started controlling women, enslaving them to their wicked work system. A famous occult movie called The Eyes Wide Shut was recorded in their mansion. It was an example of what goes behind the covers, what happens in those remote private parties that only a select few can attend. There were countless scenes of satanic Masonic rituals, and it showed who is the god of this world. The producer of Eyes Wide Shut wanted to shed even more light on what famous people do when the cameras are off, but he suddenly died from a heart attack in his sleep after finishing the final cut of the movie. And as you suspected, some scenes were deleted and they never hit the big screen. This was one of those accidents that happen to anyone who wants to expose the cold hard truth about them. Throughout the history of all the popes, the Pope was considered the highest authority out of all Catholic priests. Every king, every dictator, every emperor answered to the Pope directly. Nothing could be started or finished without the Pope's blessing, and they considered themselves a legitimate heir of St. Peter. They claim that they are only representatives of God on this planet. The history of humankind is stained with the blood of the wicked machine. When they saw that Islam grew bigger, they organized the first crusade to slay the heretics. When the Crusaders arrived in the Holy Land, they brought nothing but destruction and misery. They demolished cities, they took everything from innocent people, and they killed everyone in front of them, telling everyone that it's God's works. The Pope also initiated the Inquisition program, which lasted a couple of centuries. Inquisition went from door to door and killed so many heretics, accusing them of crimes they never committed. The punishments they had are considered some of the worst and cruelest in the whole history. After Martin Luther protested and created a new, more pure way of religion, the Pope went berserk because he had lost all of the power. He started a religious war and killed over 30% of the German population. The Pope was also going after Orthodox Christians and other Christian denominations, wanting to exterminate them from the face of the earth. As we can see throughout history, they weren't interested in religion but power. We know that the Pope participated in those secret meetings in remote locations. He went and met with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds so that they can discuss further plans to start new and wicked projects. We can't mention any more information in this video, but don't worry, we will create a separate video about the Pope and we will reveal all hidden details there. We can see that the world that we live in is carefully planned and designed to enslave as many people as possible, to create an army of zombies who will work and create everything for their rulers. The people they work for feed on their time and on their money, treating them as nothing more than cattle. The two families that we have talked about now are practically one family, and they are now related, and they share their material wealth so that they can conquer the world faster. They don't care about you. You're left alone in this dark world. They will teach your children to hate you in their enslavement system, also known as their educational system. There, they teach you that parents aren't an authority and that they should listen to teachers only. They will take your children away and they will leave you with nothing. You work for your whole life for a pension that cannot sustain you. The only thing it can sustain is your tombstone. Then they replace God with popes and their wicked ways. They took the prayer out of school and left us with nothing but darkness, wickedness, and sorrow. They replaced God with their hidden ruler, Satan. They have taken part in countless satanic rituals and they are a part of a secret society that runs this world. More on that in upcoming videos. Their wealth is practically priceless and infinite because they control the banks and the cash flow. You cannot fight against them alone, and you cannot make a difference in this world. The only thing that can help you is faith in God and His Son Jesus Christ, who died for you so you can be clean, so you can be forgiven. He is the only one that can oppose them because creation cannot beat the Creator. So put your faith in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and be extra careful. The wolves are always on the prowl.